This video is sponsored by Gamos Metal Cruise 2023.
Amassing the bodies and pits as they die, sentient and filthy they rot. Flammable and singing, discarded like waste. For the fire of the handgun, you played it all wrong. And soul and valor.
Hey buddy, and welcome to Rauta's reviews. This time it's a Doom Death Legend from Sweden. This is Runemagick Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind. I'll be honest, I was really surprised to hear from this band a while ago. I got this review copy late May 2023, and on top of this I was happy enough to get a load of previous albums, that is reissues, which I will be featuring later on another video. But why this was an interesting surprise was that it's been so many years since the last time I heard Runemagick. I would guess it must have been early 2000s, 2005 or so, when I got to review a Venom album. Pretty good of an album, by the way. And since that, I think something in the promotional department has really changed, and the band and its labels have more or less, I don't know, maybe stopped promoting. Whatever it is, the band actually got in touch with me, which was indeed a pleasant surprise. I always like to get in touch directly with the bands because the tone and communications is so much different, and bands seem to have a little bit different take when it comes to review work and all that stuff. Now, I am rambling here, so let's focus on the music. As you can figure out, Runemagick has been there for eternity. I mean, more than 30 years, since early 90s, but often overlooked as a band. Now I get it. The thing here is it's very challenging to do this kind of music, which is doom death, because it's not exactly the most, say, successful, most liked, most, I don't know, easy to define of a genre. I mean, it doesn't really speak to the doom metal fans the way traditional doom, where we're talking about, you know, bands like Black Sabbath or later era Candlemass and so forth, or death metal fanatics, which might be, you know, more for brutality, speed, heaviness, technical gimmickry and all that stuff. Now that is where Runemagick falls between these two worlds, being unfortunate and all that stuff. I mean, given their history, given their career, amount of albums and overall quality, I think they totally deserve more attention, but sometimes these go out of hand. And it's not like this band only has a couple of albums out, like, which would you use as an excuse to say, yeah, it's forgotten because they rarely do albums. I mean, come on, take a look at this discography and you will find they have more than 12 albums out, and top of that, demos, singles, compilations, EPs, what have you. Kind of a massive, really, discography, way more massive than a lot of other old-timers from the same era. And, you know, still going strong. The only hiatus point which I could really figure out, in terms of albums anyway, is here with Dawn of the End 2007 and Evoked from Abysmal Sleep 2018. So here is a 10 years, or well, 11 years gap when it comes to albums. But even so, here they had some EPs and demo singles, what have you. So it's not like the band ever went, you know, like full break or whatever. But I don't know, last few years these albums have been coming out maybe slower than before, but still being active. However, something fell out of the radar and really haven't gotten any of the albums or whatever for review. But here it is, now changed, and I got some of the previous ones as mentioned, reissues, so I will be going back to this discography. We'll be talking about that in a further retrospective sense. Now let's work for Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind. As you can see, this is only 6 tracks and 48 minutes. That means all of these songs are really lengthy, which is very, very typical for this kind of band. I mean, when I was checking back my old review of Venom from 2005, I was like, okay, well, pretty much making same kind of a notes in my review of that when it comes to this one. I mean, there was like noting that like the shortest song was something like 7 to 8 minutes roughly. And here you had pretty much almost the same kind of pattern, with the exception of one song being only 4 minutes, but the rest from almost 8 minutes to almost 12 minutes, which is something that is really Runemagick trademark. After all, this is a band that totally goes with the, you know, the style that it's about, you know, creating slow, heavy, and in a way very sinister songs. Now the thing here is, this is a combination of death doom in the very essence of being back to the roots. It's not like you have your own My Dying Bride kind of a thing with the gothic layers and all that stuff, but other than that, they're all there. I mean, you have the growly vocals, deep, good, and all that stuff, very fitting. You have those heavy guitars and pounding drums, which are definitely quite death metal-like. But then again, the tempo is more like slow, or at best mid-tempo. And this is where the doom metal element kind of comes in, kicking down the door and saying like, yeah, this is not your typical death metal. I mean, even if you compare these two bands, which are more known for their mid-tempo part, Obituary or Ball Thrower, you will say, okay, these guys are slower, so maybe doom death is indeed very describing what they're doing. So in that respect, it kind of reminds me of the classic US-based band Winter, which was there even before bands like Runemagick, or, well, at least their album was before these guys had an album out. And as such, it's easy to just have those kind of connections drawn onto your mental map when you're figuring out what kind of bands we're talking about when talking about doom death. Also, you might say Eternus from Norway is roughly a little bit on the same thing, but there are of course differences between different bands, even when we come to doom death. So people who are expecting some kind of energy and faster tempo and all that stuff will find Runemagick way too hard to get into. Don't get me wrong, I love what they are doing with the atmosphere. It's dark and it's kind of a sinister, but not like your, I don't know, depressive, cavernous, suicidal black metal ones, but definitely more on the darker side of things. And when you have that slow tempo instead of fast blasting and lots of energy and machine gun fire or what have you, well, it can really make the difference between those who really, really like it and those who just find it boring. Now, for me, Runemagick is more definitely on the hit side than miss side. But I also have to admit that I kind of feel like they should have more catchier riffs, the more memorable songs and all that stuff, which is not exactly what happens when you have some 12-minute song. I mean, let's be honest about it. Human brain is kind of simple when it comes to certain amount of repetition and all that stuff. So when you want songs, I mean, whether we're talking about Angel of Death or classic metallic tracks or, I don't know, even the best of Iron Maiden, not to mention a lot of black metal and death metal riffs and songs, they need to have certain kind of repetition, certain pattern that kind of drills into your brain, and you will later on end up humming whatever chores you're doing. And that's where Runemagick is not stepping in. I mean, they don't really have the kind of riffs and, well, songs which are just like, you know, the bangers. And unfortunately, that is the downside of the whole thing here. Other than that, I would say this is a good album. It's a solid successor to whatever previous work Runemagick has done. But that being said, I must admit, I haven't been listening to some of the previous albums because, like I said, I kind of fall off the wagon or went under the radar or whatever metaphor you want to use. And as such, I have missed some of the albums, can't really compare to the couple of previous ones. This being said, however, if you like doom death or if you even like slower end of death metal, this is for you, definitely. But if you prefer your doom metal with just clean vocals and all that stuff and you hate growly vocals, Runemagick is definitely not for you. This is just way too death metal-like for that. Now, off you go. Go check it out. It's been out since late April this year. And let's talk about later the whole career and the preview stuff with the retrospective video of Runemagick coming later on. I will be linking these two videos later on, so off you go. Enjoy and bye-bye.